Welcome everyone attending our webinar today. Welcome to all of our newly admitted Tritons for fall 2021, whether you are joining us from inside of the US or from the other side of the world. On behalf of the International Students and Programs Office, also known as ISPO, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Alexis Green. I am an intake advisor here at ISPO. Okay, just a few housekeeping items before we begin today. First, you're on listen only mode. You can hear us, but we cannot hear you. Next, we are recording. This webinar will be posted at iwebinars.ucsd.edu. Lastly, please use the Q&A box to get your questions answered. Even if we are not able to answer them today through chat or during our Q&A at the end of our session, we'll do our very best to make sure we provide answers by updating our coronavirus FAQ page for newly admitted students. Okay, so let's begin. Today we're going to talk about excelling in the classroom, your guide to academic success. For our presentation overview, getting started, overview of the US classroom, understanding academic integrity, and academic support resources. Okay, so now let's begin. We are happy to welcome to our session today our presenters. We have Priscilla Jew from Out of State and International Outreach Coordinators Department. We have Klaus Vanderwey from our Academic Integrity Office. And we have Christina Nguyen from our Academic Achievement Teaching and Learning Commons Department. Okay, I will turn it over to Priscilla Jew.
Hey everyone, thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about being in the US classroom. So if we go to the next slide, we want to cover a little bit of common classroom lingo that you might hear that you might not be super familiar with. So the first one is, what's the difference between a professor and a TA? So the professor is typically a faculty member. They have their PhD, they're renowned in their field, versus a TA is often a graduate student in the same field, very, very proficient, but assisting the professor with answering questions and helping to disseminate information. The syllabus is the document that you will receive at the beginning of class. It's really important that you review the syllabus. It has the different policies and rules of the classes. It gives you the outline of when assignments are due, when you have exams, so you can plan ahead. So we highly recommend that you review the syllabus. The curve, I don't know how many of you have heard of the curve or breaking the curve or needing the curve, but it's this idea that the professor will decide potentially to lift all of the grades up based on what the average is. So if, for example, you go through a quarter and all of the classes average is a little bit lower than the standard bell curve, the professor has discretion to move that up a little bit. Lecture versus discussion. So lecture is typically the large classroom setting where everybody who's signed up for that class, so maybe a couple hundred students, are in the lecture, and that's typically facilitated by the professor. It's taught by the professor. And then your discussion classes are typically smaller sections, so just a subset of the lecture. And often it's led by your TA, and it gives you the opportunity to ask questions in a more comfortable setting or to talk to your peers and your classmates to also check what their understanding is and help each other out in the class. Podcast is a way that you can re-listen to your classes. So a lot of times now, some of our professors will record their lectures, so in an audio format, so you can re-listen to the material at a later date if that helps your learning style. And then a clicker is a physical object that if you're in person, it will be used sometimes to help track attendance or participation. Typically there might be a quiz question and then they'll ask you to use your clicker to answer that question. Okay, moving on. A couple of administrative things that might be new as you come to UC San Diego. The first is the academic calendar, where we have 10-week quarters. A lot of different education systems use semesters or 2 semesters, and it's 16 weeks or 20 weeks. And so we go by a 10-week quarter, which is pretty quick. And sometimes that takes some time to just get used to it. So schedule of classes, we highly encourage you to be reviewing your own class schedule, but just to get a sense of how classes are scheduled on campus. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, all of the classes begin and end at a certain time. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, all of those classes end at a different time than the Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes. So in some ways it gives you more flexibility, so you can plan your schedule this way, but it's important to get to know and understand what those timing differences are. And the campus diversity. So our campus is very, very diverse. At least in terms of like visual representation, you're going to see a lot of people that maybe look differently than yourself, and that may or may not be your experience coming to the US. And so just something for you to be thinking about and consider as you transition. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about the dimensions of cultural difference. So there's a cultural theory called Hofstede's cultural dimensions. We're not going to quiz you on that. It's just so you get a sense of what we're talking about. But the idea is that every culture is going to fall within a spectrum on these different items. So we have indulgence versus restraint, power distance, individualism versus collectivism, masculinity versus femininity, uncertainty avoidance, and long-term versus short-term orientation. We are not going to talk about all of these. We're just going to talk about a few that we feel like you might really see in the classroom. Next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to talk about learning cultures. So the spectrum here is that there could be some very teacher-centered learning versus student-centered learning. So teacher-centered learning would look like the focus is really on the teacher. The students aren't really participating. They're just receiving knowledge from the teacher. A lot of times it's based on like remembering and memorizing of facts. And the goal is to have the correct answer and to be able to like give the correct answer and knowledge back. Versus student-centered learning, student-centered learning where the focus is more on the students. The students are encouraged to be active in discussions. So we're going to ask a lot of questions and want you to respond. The goal is more about critical thinking. And it's not necessarily about you giving the correct answer that the teacher has given you. It's that you understand it in your own way. And for you to search for knowledge and to think for yourself. So this isn't a super, because this is a listen only mode, I can't pull you and see how you're feeling about it. But what we tend to see is a lot of folks, if you grow up in one type of learning, it's really difficult to transition to another one. It feels very strange, right? Go to the next slide, please. So in the US classroom, you're going to experience both. You will experience both this teacher-centered learning and student-centered learning. So when you're in a lecture, it's going to feel more like teacher-centered learning because you're going to have the teacher offloading a lot of information. Not all of your lectures or classes will be like that, but a lot of times in our sections or a smaller group classes, it's more student-centered learning. So in the US, we're deeply individualist. I think we challenge a lot of the hierarchy and power structures, and we really encourage students to take an active role, to speak up, to ask questions. We might even encourage you to disagree with the instructor, and that might feel really, really, really weird. And so we just want you to be thinking about that, be prepared for that as you go into these different classes. Next slide, please. So just a tip, it is not important to always give the correct answer or agree with exactly what the professor has said when participating in class. It is, in fact, okay to say what you think the answer is, even if you're not sure. So view questions as a way to show how much you understand about the material, as opposed to, I must demonstrate 100% accuracy. It's going to help you, but it's also going to help the people around you. And if you listen to other people's questions and answers, that could be helpful to you as well. So the atmosphere is we really encourage questioning and helping each other. Next slide, please. Another Triton tip is that using technology in the classroom, it's pretty common now. However, using your mobile phone during class, even if you're not disrupting the class, maybe you're taking notes on it, it is often seen by many faculty as disrespectful. So if you are going to be using technology in the classroom, using a tablet or a laptop to take notes or anything like that, that's typically a more accepted practice. So just a tip. Next slide. So just some more fun facts. Classroom size and structure is key. So make sure you're looking at that information as you're picking classes, as you're thinking about where you might feel the most comfortable. Listen, be observant. Most educators are going to clearly outline their expectations. So that gives you insight into the classroom norms and how you're going to be held accountable. So remember, I was talking a lot about the syllabus earlier. This is typically where our educators are going to be outlining their expectations. And it's really important that you read through it and understand what this instructor wants from you in this class. We talked about the technology usage. You're going to see a lot of folks will be on laptops, tablets, and things like that to take notes. Remember, it is okay to make mistakes, and that remote learning can be complicated. Next slide, please. So a lot of us have gone through at least a year of remote learning at this point, and we're going to be continuing a little bit with that, right? So a lot of us have in-person classes and we still have online classes. So our Teaching and Learn Commons suggests the following strategies. So learning spaces, creating your own learning space so that when you come into the environment, you know that like you are here, you trick your mind into knowing that
Okay, everyone, I believe we lost our connection to Ms. Ju, so we will move on to the next slide here.
Okay. Well, hi, I'm Klaus Vanderway. I am an education coordinator in the Academic Integrity Office, and I'm one of the instructors of the Academic Integrity Seminar. And on behalf of our department, I wish to welcome you to UC San Diego and welcome you into this community of serious scholarship. And with that comes a great responsibility to uphold a tradition of preserving integrity, to keep your intended degree and those who came before you and those who follow you both valued and respected. And we believe those are qualities that drew you here to the university in the first place. Next slide, please. Thanks. Common terms we use to describe cheating include academic integrity violation, academic misconduct, and academic dishonesty. All of those mean cheating. Next slide, please. And such actions can result in adverse effects to your GPA or enrollment, failing an assignment or a course, probation, suspension, and even sometimes dismissal. But overall, it limits what you learn, right? But my purpose here today is more than to simply remind you that cheating is bad. In fact, we believe that we believe that integrity is about how we treat others and how we wish to be treated. Next slide, please. So we recognize that in this fast-paced society that we live in, it's ingrained in us to make decisions quickly. And that kind of pressure really makes it difficult to always remember that our actions have consequences. not only for ourselves, but for others, and sometimes others farther beyond who we may imagine. A choice that you may make for yourself may have implications for your classmates, for instructors, the university, and even society at large. So our approach to academic integrity is rooted in straightforward values inspired by the International Center for Academic Integrity. Next slide, please. That is that we define integrity as the courage to be honest, respectful, responsible, fair, and trustworthy, even when it is difficult to do so. Integrity means honestly submitting work for academic credit only if it is a true and accurate reflection of your knowledge and abilities and not those of others. Integrity means responsibly taking steps to ensure that you act according to the standards and the expectations of our academic community, even if they differ from those standards and expectations that you may have been used to in the past. Integrity means openly and respectfully acknowledging when you're using the words, ideas, or work of another person. And integrity means fairly earning your grades according to the standards and the expectations laid out by the university, its professors, rather than going off of what your own interpretation or your own ideas of what is okay to do. Integrity means doing all of this, right? Even if no one is watching or forcing you to do so. Integrity means also being courageous. And sometimes that means accepting a low grade rather than undermining any of these values. Sometimes it's the courage to say no to someone who asks you to violate any of these values. And the courage to interrupt or report actions by others which do not uphold these values. Next slide, please. Some common examples of integrity violations, and I think we can just list them all. Thank you. They include completing an academic assignment with others without permission, using sources without citations, copying another student's assignment, whether in part or even in total, and submitting it as your own work, copying an online quiz or an assignment, including the answers from the internet or from anyone. Paying or asking anyone to create, again, whether in part or completely, an assignment for you. Translating any part of an assignment. And again, speak with your instructor about what methods are acceptable. And asking for the solution to an assignment or an exam problem from a source that is not authorized by the instructor. And then there are examples of integrity violations that may not appear as obvious. Perhaps you go onto a website like Chegg and they happen to be offering a promotion. That promotion may be, in exchange for submitting some of your code as example material, they'll waive the subscription fee. It's cheating when you upload the code, even if you're just curious to see what resources that helpful website has to offer. Doing so has consequences to you, and yes, also others. It compromises the respect to the professor and the curriculum. Let's take a look at another example. It's possible you're up late at night and you have only written one paragraph for a paper in your college writing course. It's now 3 a.m. and an ad pops up that offers to write you a plagiarism-free paper for just a small fee. It is cheating when someone else writes the paper regardless if it is paid, for a favor, or for free. It is not your own honest work, and it undermines the fairness to classmates who have done the work themselves. And it's also an example of contract cheating. Next slide, please. Contract cheating is a serious offense that involves someone else creating an assignment for you, again, whether in part or in total. And that can take the form of whether you pay them, whether it is for a favor, or whether it is for free. Having someone else work on an assignment for you is dishonest. And so we encourage you to beware of toxic tutors. These are people who call themselves tutors, but who are actually doing academic work for you instead of helping you learn how to do the work yourself. They are most commonly, again, Chegg tutors, online strangers in help sites, or assignment and essay writing sites. In other words, they are non-UCSD tutors. So some warning signs that someone may be a toxic tutor include, next slide, please. Someone who is messaging you on social media, offering to help out with your homework assignments or to take care of a paper for you. Another warning sign may be the way a tutor talks about their services in a way that makes you feel nervous or uncomfortable. Another warning sign may be a tutor who uses assignments and exams from the class itself, or who does all of the work for you, but doesn't teach you the underlying concepts and lets you practice them, right? Of course, paying for tutoring. So now in our office, we recognize that each of us are but only human, and we're vulnerable to making poor decisions under pressure. And so too are toxic tutors who take advantage of our vulnerabilities. And those vulnerabilities come in a variety of ways. Next slide, please. That could be, the pressure to succeed, the pressure from deadlines or conflicting priorities, social pressures, even struggling with the academics themselves or the language. So we must also take care by being aware of our personal stresses. Sometimes that's our own perceptions about a class or an instructor, or even interruptions to our work or our focus as a result of life or even world events. Next slide, please. So what can you do? Well, the Academic Integrity Office is here to help. Even if you misstep, we believe that it's an opportunity to learn. On staff, we have 8 career staff members. We have dozens of student staff supporting our various programs, and review board and advisory, advisors who are both student and faculty volunteers. Again, we are here to support your success. So please do feel comfortable visiting our virtual front desk at the link that's listed there, or checking out our resources at integrity.ucsd.edu. Next slide. We're always happy to provide you consultation and motivation to know the rules and standards, or ask. Get familiar with the policy on the integrity of scholarship and the integrity of research policy. Get to fully know and clearly understand your syllabi and assignment prompts, and understand why all of this matters. We're also here to help you reduce temptation and distractions. In other words, manage your time, and encourage you to have a sound method for recognizing and making ethical decisions, right? And above all, we encourage you to seek help and use university resources. And our colleague Christina will share that in just a moment. So I thank you for your attention, and we wish you the very best and welcome you aboard as fellow Tritons.
Okay, thank you, Klaus. So hello, everyone. I am Christina. I am one of the supplemental instruction coordinators at the Academic Achievement Hub in the Teaching and Learning Commons, and I will be speaking about the academic support resources around UC San Diego. Next slide, please. So before we get started, let's look at some of the classroom lingo. So the first term is office hours, which is a set time that professors and teaching assistants, or TAs, hold throughout the quarter for students to come in and ask questions in a smaller, more personal setting. So if you don't want to ask questions in lecture, you can always also go to office hours, and those times can be found within your syllabus of the course. The next term is Canvas, and Canvas is an online learning tool where professors post announcements to the whole class online, and then also hold quizzes, and it holds all the information for your course, such as the syllabus that I mentioned before. And the next term is Tutor, and a tutor is someone who will support you in understanding the course material, especially if it's a university tutor. We uphold the academic integrity. So They are typically an undergraduate student, and they usually do not have access to your grades like a professor or TA. And so they are a great resource for you to use whenever you have a quick question about your homework or something in the class that you didn't really understand. And then the next term is a peer coach or peer mentor. And these peers are typically close in your age who can support you during any part of your college career. So they have experience on how to navigate the campus and can provide you with individual personalized support. And the final term is hub, which is another term for a center. Some resources around campus have the term hub, which means it's an area with a group of resources to support you in your specific needs. For example, the Academic Achievement Hub. Next slide, please. And so to start off with some academic resources, there are ways that people can practice using English, or such as English in action, or if you want to learn another language, there are language conversation tables held by the International House. There are also ways for you to get involved too on campus. So you can also sign up to be a host to teach a language in these language conversation tables. Next slide. And next we'll talk about textbooks. So most of your classes, if not all, may have a textbook requirement. However, some of these textbooks can be very expensive. And so here are just some of the resources that you can use to find textbooks at a lower rate. So for example, the UCSD bookstore has new books, which are a bit more expensive, but they also have used textbooks, which are sold at a discounted rate also. There is the Amazon rental, where you can rent the book for the quarter for typically a fraction of the price of a new book. And then once you are done, you can return it back to Amazon. And we do have an Amazon store within our UCSD bookstore, so it's very easy to return and pretty convenient too. And next we have something that you can, next is sometimes you can find the online versions of your textbooks within the internet. You can Google around too, and then that might also lead you to the UCSD Free and for Sale page on Facebook, where students just like you are posting their used textbooks for a lower rate. So you can definitely buy and find textbooks around. You should just definitely ask around to see if your peers also have more resources for you too. Next slide, please. And so now we'll go into some more resources in campus. So for the first one is my home department, the Teaching and Learning Commons. So the Commons holds 6 different hubs, and I recommend you check them all out by going to commons.ucsd.edu. And I will first talk about the Writing Hub. So Writing Hub is where you can get one-on-one support in your writing courses or writing for any papers or research papers. You can set up an appointment, and they also hold workshops too. And then the next one is my hub, which is the Academic Achievement Hub. It's where it has 3 programs: content tutoring, supplemental instruction, also known as SI, and the learning strategies program. So with content tutoring, we support most lower division STEM courses, and we range from math, chemistry, physics, economics, engineering, and there's a lot more. You can definitely check us out on our website, aah.ucsd.edu. And next one I will be talking about is supplemental instruction, which is my program. So supplemental instruction, or SI, is a place for you to review the course material outside of lecture in a smaller group environment. So there's no sign up needed, and you can check out the sessions. Usually the SI leader will come into your classroom on the first day, and they will always be in your classes with you. So they would call in on the first day, introduce themselves, and let you know when the sessions are. And if you ever have any questions, please let us know too. And within these sessions, you can work with your peers, get to see how other people are digesting the information. And we do recommend you to attend as frequently as possible, since our data does show that students who attend 4 or more of our sessions will receive at least a letter grade higher than those who don't attend. And then the third program within the AH is the Learning Strategies program. And so this is not course specific focused, but it focuses on how you are as a student and how you learn. So as you transition to college or within a new environment, it can be stressful and can really affect your studies. So you can definitely speak to a learning strategist about how to manage your studies throughout this transitioning time. And then also with the learning, the next one is experiential learning, which holds the academic internship program, UC-DC and UC Sacramento. And so with these programs, you can definitely check out how to get involved within your coursework. So the academic internship program can pair you with an internship within campus or off campus to help you practice what you are learning in class. And UC DC and UC Sacramento both help you if you're interested in anything like politics. That is something that you can also check out too. And the next one is OASIS, the Office of Academic Support and Instructional Services, which also has a language and writing program. They also hold workshops for your specific college writing courses too, and the Math and Science tutorial program also, and that is a sign-up basis, so you can definitely check out oasis.ucsc.edu to see more. Next slide, please. So more resources on campus is the academic advisors. So within UC San Diego, there are different types of advisors. There are your college advisors, major advisors, and international advisors. So if you ever have any questions, definitely try to go to one, and then if they can't answer your question, they typically refer you to the correct person to ask. And then also there is CAPS, which is the Counseling and Psychological Services. So if you are ever feeling culture shock or feelings of isolation or difficulties with American slang, or even more, just within that transition, it can definitely be challenging for anyone. So definitely checking them out and making sure that you get the support needed throughout your time here. And then there is also the International Students and Programs Office, ISPO, who is greatly holding this new orientation for you. Also, if you have any questions in terms of being international students, such as visa regulations or reduced course load, definitely reaching out to them and asking them those questions. There are also outreach coordinators for international and out-of-state students, so definitely there are programs to help you connect to your college community, since UC San Diego is also split up within their own I think it's 8 colleges. No, it's still 7 colleges for you to really connect within your own community. And then also reaching out to your professor and TA. You have a lot of resources and support around you in UC San Diego, and we definitely recommend you to make sure that you take advantage of all of it and make sure that you are fully supported throughout your time at UC San Diego. And even though you are at a very great university, being involved is also important too. And so we know you're here to work and study, and after university, most jobs and grad schools do look for skills such as communication skills and being able to work with others or in a team setting, and also having leadership skills. So getting involved in campus, such as student organizations or having a on-campus job to help you practice with these skills, will definitely be very profitable for you in the future when you are applying for jobs or graduate school. And we really recommend you to try to network as much as you can, which is getting to know new people, talking to your professors, getting to know your professors, your TAs, your peers, tutors, and everyone, even counselors or advisors. So plus, it's also fun to get to know new people, and you build a community within this larger university. So you would have your own smaller community to make you feel like you have a home away from home. Yes. And then next slide, please. Yes, so then I will pass it on to PJ. I think she's back on some upcoming events.
Thank you. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. So right now we're about to go into our welcome week. And so our out-of-state and international outreach programs are hosting some different welcome back socials or welcome and welcome back socials. So you'll see that we have a series of in-person socials that are all happening on Friday evening, this Friday, but we also have a virtual option. So if you are unable to join us for your specific colleges, then go ahead and please Zoom in with us. Go to the next slide.
Thank you to our presenters for being here with us today. We've now reached the end of our session, and we're happy to answer any questions you have. Please use the Q&A feature to submit any questions from today's presentation. Okay, I believe we have a question. Is class attendance mandatory?
So I would say refer back to your syllabus. I know you've heard me say that like 100 times now, but in the syllabus, your faculty member will clearly outline what their attendance policy is. And so some faculty members will allow excused absences, like a certain number of them, and some will say that attendance is mandatory or compulsory, and they will get attendance through clicker question or an actual roster roll call. So you'll need to assess your specific syllabi to know that answer.
Thank you, Ms. Chu. Where can I find the record after this webinar is done? Okay, so we are recording this session, so you will have access to this session at the very end. When will we get the syllabus? Is it on the first day of instruction?
Yes, so there are some faculty members who will post the syllabus to like a Canvas page, for example, or maybe they'll email it out in advance, but most instructors will send that to you or hand it out to you on the first day of class.
Hi, could you please re-explain about the curve?
Yes, sorry, I will do my best. So the idea is when we give an exam, the grades that the class get should fall on a standard bell curve. So that's why we have like an average is C, right? So around that 70% area. But sometimes if an exam is really difficult or whatever the reason is, sometimes the class's average is lower than that 70%. And so when that happens, the faculty has discretion to elevate all of the class's grades in order to match a more standard bell curve. I don't know if that explanation helps or not. I kind of wish I had like a whiteboard situation, but hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. It's not offered in all classes.
Thank you, PJ. So our next question, what's the difference between an internship through Handshake and through the AIP?
Yes, so with Handshake, it has many job listings from different companies. With academic internship program, you can get academic credit for the internship. So we also have connections to certain companies and other offices on campus to help you with that internship. And then the ones on Handshake are more, I guess you can say, I don't really know how to say it. It's not as connected to the university as the ones that go through academic internship program, but both of them are still very valid internships. It's just one of them will definitely give you academic credit while the other is just more of the experience.
Okay, so another student suggesting that she's on the waiting list for one of her classes so that she can enroll. Should she email the professor or just wait?
I can try to answer this. You kind of just have to wait to see if more sections get open. Right now, that just means the classroom is full and they would need to make some adjustments, such as adding more sections or adding another class. So in the end, you might just have to wait. PJ, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, so I would say if you're waiting for a class and that's the class that you need to hit your 12 unit requirement, I would recommend that you also enroll in another class just in case you don't end up getting into the class that you really want to, because it is important that you have the 12 units. So it's unfortunately a question that no one can really answer for you. You just have to assess based on where you are in the wait list, whether or not you think that you're going to be able to get pulled in. But I would recommend if you're close to that unit threshold that you go ahead and enroll in another course just to make sure that you meet your unit requirement.
Christina, thank you, PJ. So for our next question, who do we contact if we are interested in taking a class remotely?
I don't know that there's anything to be done about that, in the sense that if a class is not being offered remotely, which at this point you should have been notified already if that class has been migrated to a remote function. So if a remote section already exists and you want to switch into that section, then I would work with someone from academic advising to see if you're able to make that switch, or potentially to email the faculty and see if there's space. But if a remote section doesn't already exist, then it's unlikely that it will be offered remotely. If you could email the faculty member and ask if they'll make an exception for you to attend the class remotely, but it is, at this point, it's probably unlikely that that exception can be made, but it never hurts to ask. So I guess if you're looking to switch into a section, write your academic advisor in the VAC. And if you are hoping to attend a class remotely, then you would email the instructor and ask if that is possible.
Thank you, PJ. And so for our next question, can you provide some information on the honor system?
Sure. Well, we call it the Policy on Integrity of Scholarship, and it's actually something that you can Google, or you can go to academicintegrity.ucsd.edu, and the full policy is available to you there. But I will say it really boils down to this. The honor code means that all academic work done by students will be done by the individual to whom it is assigned, without any unauthorized aid of any kind, period. So we basically are saying that we expect you to submit your own honest work that reflects your own abilities and no one else's.
Thank you, Klaus. So we have another question. Since your office is moving, I cannot reach out for Zoom advising until the 20th of September. I want to talk with them for courses. What should I do? This is from a student asking, what's the next step?
So I would recommend writing into the virtual advising center. Since I don't work from your college, I'm not sure exactly what their plan is in terms of like a drop-in advising, but at the very least, I would connect with them in the virtual advising center and ask your questions, but then also potentially ask if there is any way to do some kind of Zoom advising in the meantime. And if they say no, unfortunately, you may just need to go back and forth via message in the VAC, in the virtual advising center.
Okay. So for our next question, do we start classes on the 20th? And what is Welcome Week?
So you start classes on Thursday, the 23rd. That's technically when your classes you'll start going to your classrooms. But Welcome Week is an opportunity for you to explore campus, check out the different colleges, the offices, and get to meet other people before you have to start worrying about class assignments or class responsibilities. So it's our way of welcoming you to the university, and we hope that you participate in it. There is oftentimes a lot of free stuff. So free snacks, free shirts, free goodies. So we do also recommend that if you're, trying to acquire more UC San Diego swag items, please go to the events and learn about the campus.
Thank you, PJ. Do we have any more questions from our attendees? No, okay. This is unfortunately all the time we have together today. If you have any questions, please feel free to visit ISPO's website, istudents.ucsd.edu. You can learn more about the different ways to contact ISPO at icontact.ucsd.edu. And we would like to thank our presenters today, Priscilla Ju, Klaus Vanderway, and Christina Nguyen. Okay, so let's talk about meetups. Meetups are a great way to meet other international students at UC San Diego. We are offering 2 different kinds of meetups. It's interest-based and regionals. To register for meetups, head to iorientationucsd.com/meetup. You can see the link here. Okay, so for iEvents, want to know what's happening at UC San Diego all year? Great. Our iEvents calendar is a live calendar that features globally engaged events hosted by student organizations and campus departments throughout the year. Head to ievents.ucsd.edu for the latest. We also have the link right here for you. Okay, so for our final reminders, before we say goodbye, a few reminders. Please continue to register for other orientation sessions by visiting iorientation.ucsd.edu. At the end of this session, you'll get an email with a survey. Filling out this survey is how we verify your attendance at this workshop and how you fulfill your 2 minimum requirement. So please, please fill it out. The browser that you use to open this webinar will automatically show the survey link once we end this webinar, so please keep an eye on it. You will also receive a post-session email tomorrow with the survey link reminding you to fill it out. If you have any questions, you can always email us at iprograms@ucsd.edu. Also stay up to date by visiting iupdates.ucsd.edu and by checking your UC San Diego email for weekly ISPO newsletters. Lastly, you can always contact ISPO at icontact.ucsd.edu and follow us on social media. Okay, thank you to everyone for attending today's session. Again, whether you are joining us from inside of the US or from the other side of the world, on behalf of the International Students and Programs Office here at UC San Diego, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, evening, or morning. Have a great fall quarter. See you all at our next session.